Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm about to tell you that if you're using marijuana to treat your post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms, you might be doing more harm than good. Now, can marijuana help with symptoms of PTSD? Many people are using it for those symptoms, and majorities of states that allow medical marijuana have approved it as a form of treatment for PTSD. There's even a push for it to be allowed by the Veterans Affairs Hospital in treating veterans with PTSD. But are we making a mistake by doing so? To understand if marijuana can help or hurt PTSD, we first have to understand what PTSD is. PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, is a complete mental health condition that stems from trauma. This trauma can be a single episode like a car accident, or complex trauma such as wartime or abuse, whether it's physical or sexual. The symptoms of PTSD often vary from person to person, but typically they'll include things like anger, anxiety, depression, paranoia, nightmares, trouble concentrating, suicidal thoughts, guilt, disassociation, and flashbacks. And in some cases, it could even come with hallucinations. Marijuana has been shown to be effective in treating anxiety. So it only seems natural that people would use it for their PTSD, as PTSD was once looked at as more of an extreme anxiety disorder than trauma related. Nowadays, we know that's not the case. There are many articles that encourage the use of marijuana for PTSD, and there are some studies that work to prove it. However, in an article published by Medscape, they argue that these studies have had very little evidence, and most of these studies went off of anecdotal evidence, meaning it was more based on opinions than any kind of facts. Very small control groups. So Medscape used a study that took 2,276 veterans, it's a large control group, and split them into 4 groups. Of these 4 groups, there were those that did not use marijuana at all, those that used at admission and continued to use at discharge, those who used at admission but quit using after discharge, and those who started to use at discharge but did not use at admission. All veterans were evaluated for about 4 months after their discharge. So this study showed that those using marijuana had increased symptoms of PTSD and included an increase in violence. Those who stopped using marijuana at discharge showed an 8% decrease in symptoms. Those who never used had a 5.5% decrease in symptoms. Those improvements in the group of veterans who continue to use marijuana only saw less than 1% improvement of their symptoms. Now, why is this? Why is it that something that helps with anxiety does not help with PTSD? In fact, many people who say marijuana does help them with their PTSD symptoms are not really looking at the hardcore issues of PTSD. We might be able to treat the symptoms, but are we processing that trauma? So, is it just helping, or is it making things worse by causing us to hide from it? So to understand what I mean by this better, we have to look at another drug that helps really well with anxiety but does not work for PTSD, and that's known as benzodiazepines, or commonly known as just benzos. In an article published by the Veteran Affairs, they showed that while benzos help greatly with anxiety, they are meant to be a short-term medication because of the chance of addiction. Furthermore, they went on to show that if you're using benzos, they are causing you to escape the reminders of your trauma, and you never truly learn how to manage your stress. And I believe that's what it's for. It's the same thing for medical marijuana use. If you use marijuana to treat your PTSD, you're not processing it. You're not getting to the root cause of the trauma. You're just masking it. You're just burying it deep down inside. And you stand a higher chance of becoming addicted to the marijuana. Let me address the addicts real quick that may be watching this. I've met plenty of people who have told me that they smoke marijuana without issue. In fact, Demi Lovato is credited with making the term California sober famous. But here's the problem. I met way more people who started out just trying to smoke marijuana since they couldn't go back to their heavier drug use, and it was only a matter of time before they relapsed on their hardcore drugs. So my opinion is this: maybe there is a small percentage of people that can smoke weed and never go back to heroin, alcohol, or meth. Good for them. But why risk it? Why risk it when we know so many people fail? It's like maybe there's a small population of addicts and alcoholics that can learn to drink and use drugs normally, but again, why risk it? Maybe there's a small population of people that can get sober on their own with no program, but why risk it? Because we see thousands of people try this and they fail every year. Now, what we do know is that therapeutic treatments like cognitive process therapy or eye movement desensitization and reprocessing are best practices and proven ways to treat PTSD. Trauma is hard, and the mental health symptoms that come with it is hard. But moving through it, moving past it, and processing it is vital to a life of recovery. As a counselor who practices both of these trauma treatments, I cannot do it when somebody is high. I've had people show up high on weed. Can't do it because I know they're going to disassociate. There's already a high enough risk that they can disassociate anyways. Add marijuana into the mix, and it's almost a given. There's no way that it's going to happen. And if you smoked weed a couple hours before the session, it doesn't fully wear off. You may not feel that high anymore, but you're still under the influence of marijuana. We also know that physical activities such as biking, exercising, yoga, and sports can be beneficial to recovering from these symptoms. We know that talking to others, especially those that understand what you're going through, helps. Give those a shot before marijuana, because the marijuana might help in the short term, but why risk the chance that it can make it much more worse? Why risk getting addicted to marijuana? Why risk a chance of relapsing on harder drugs? Why risk increasing paranoia or anger or any of these negative symptoms that come with it? Just why risk it? Just why? You are strong. You've survived through the trauma all this time, and you can keep surviving. Thank you. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please like and share and subscribe to the video. It helps the page immensely. Thank you. And until next time, keep living, keep recovering, and keep doing a 180. Thank you.